Are you calling me?
I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this afternoon's agenda meeting. Today we'll review those action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday, July 15th at 6 p.m. here at City Hall. I'm going to call upon our city manager, Mr. Bill Burrows, to review those action items.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Before we get into the action items for your meeting, we have Gary Troutman, President and CEO of the Greater Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and Hot Springs Metro Partnership here. He's going to deliver the Economic Development Report. Gary?
Thank you, Bill and board. Appreciate the time. Proud to have with us today. We got Cole, Gary, Jacob, and the godfather of pickleball himself, Vince Signorelli, has joined us. So, give you a recap of the month of June. And I don't usually talk, or I try not to talk too much about chamber stuff, but you all talk a lot and have Steve Arison and Derek Phillips before you, but out of the park, the new venue across from Majestic Park is just truly amazing. We had a ribbon cutting there at Sleeps 42. Obviously a whole team and parents and all that good stuff. I highly recommend an outing if y'all can schedule it to take a look and see what a nice facility that is for our out-of-town guests. I think when I reported to you last month, Gary and I had just come from Abilities Unlimited, and there you go again. There's another place that I highly recommend. It's certainly be worth an hour and a half of your time to walk through there with Karen Kite and just see the pride and passion of those folks and the job that they're doing there. Bill Burrow and I met with Adam Webb. There's new video renderings of the library that he shared with us. As you know, we've resurrected the Washington, D.C. fly-in after 4 years in COVID, and we've got 24 folks. If you've ever booked to D.C., especially with a group, you don't decide to go in 10 days and do it, so we had to do everything months in advance. So we do have 24 going, and we'll hope to build on that next year, and we do intend to make that an annual staple. We had a lot of off-site this summer, so school's out. We've had a lot of visits, both on-site and off-site. I personally had one with Scott Bailey, National Park Medical Center. When I get to the end, Gary's had quite a few I'll tell you about. Bill, Daniel George from the 50 for the Future Board and myself presented of all the great things going on in Hot Springs to the Village Governmental Affairs Committee during the month. Vicki and I had an off-site visit with the two owners of U.S. stations, the radio stations here in town. Personal note, I'm a little old to be taking tests. I think I told you all about that before, but I actually got a note that I passed that 4-hour test. I don't know how that happened, but I'll take it and we'll move on. So I've got an interview at the National Chamber Conference in a couple weeks for that certification. Cole's had several calls with AEDC. That was the first of those on the 9th. He presented a new project, or opened a new project file with them a day later. Director Garcia, you asked about the Sunday alcohol sales. We've actually had two separate presentations this month by a young man, Tyler Draper. First one, I initially had our two chairs and 50 President Daniel George and myself, and the second one asked him to come back and speak to our exec committee, and we did choose to endorse that, just so I know you'd ask about our stance on that last month. And that is to clarify the chamber, not the partnership. Partnership doesn't take political stances. Cole and I attended the 40 Under 40 Arkansas Business Ceremony at State House. Jonathan Foster, CFO at Express Boats, was selected this year. And speaking of, it's about that time for Leadership Arkansas. So if you all have anyone in mind that you would like us to submit, I submitted one today, but we want to submit about 4 or 5 and hope to get to at least 3 or 4 from Hot Springs this year. Gary had a BR&E visit, Business Retention and Expansion, with FiberPro. They're always looking for welders. Cole and I had a project call with an out-of-state company looking to enter the market. The Majestic Committee, and Vince is here if there are any questions for Majestic Committee, but we met along with Rick Williams to see the updated presentation on the library. Representative Les Warren has led the Education Council Committee now for 19 years, and we've just met with school being out, but new players. We welcomed new Lake Campbellton Superintendent Dr. Tony Thurman, and welcome back Hot Springs Superintendent Dr. Mike Hernandez. So looking forward to working with that group this year and in the future. Cole talked about a new prospect about recruiting their business to Hot Springs. I got to attend the Best of celebration in Little Rock for AY's Chamber of the Year, and I meant to grab those plaques on the way out of here, but we've got that for the second year in a row. Very proud of that. Gary had a workforce visit with Brooke Gilbert, the city, as you know, the HR director for the city of Hot Springs, and he also had one with Win Choice USA. Cole spent most of the day with partnership board member Tammy Browning, who owns Trademark Real Estate, and an out-of-country prospect looking to bring the location of their company to Hot Springs. Cole and I opened yet another project this month. Like I said, it's been a month of projects. Gary met with Amos Gray, Representative McGrew, Bo Robertson, and Mark Allen about industry experiences for high-impact movement students. Cole had a call with the ADC and local company about future expansion. Brian Smith, our chairman of the partnership, Franklin Bass of the Chamber, and Representative Les Warren and I attended a tour of Standard Lithium in El Dorado. And real quick, if you've read a lot about that, El Dorado, Magnolia is poised to be the next boom communities of Arkansas, equated to Osceola and Blytheville for steel industry. The really surprising thing was this company is a piggyback. They're at LanxEx in El Dorado. We thought we were going to see Standard Lithium, which we did, but Standard Lithium owns or operates about 10% of the property of this industry down here. They're just piggybacking off a process already being done by LanxEx, where they're extracting lithium. Now their job is to perfect the process and be ready to go in a few years. I think they've already got it basically now, but they're not going to have a structure and everything ready to go until 2028. But we want to try to figure out whatever we can do to lure adjacent companies that don't necessarily have to be on property, but it would be willing to be an hour and a half or two away here in Hot Springs. Bill B. and I had a Zoom call with a local company looking to redevelop and re-strategize. Had a meeting with our regional economic group. And just real quickly, Gary, as I said, had several BNRE visits in addition to one I mentioned: Express Boats, Tanner's, Vince's folks, U.S. Vanadium, Alliance Rubber, Cobalt Aero, Airtech Supply, CHI St. Vincent, Fiber Pro, Sigma Supply, Energy, and the county. And as I told you last month, we're looking to expand what we're doing in workforce, and we've added surrounding schools in Magnet Cove, Poe and Ouachita and Bismarck to our 7 Garland County schools, and trying to get in front of them for professional development, which they'll have in the month of August. I believe that's all I have for you right now. So I'm happy to try and answer any questions if I may.
Any questions of Gary? Director Wood?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Gary, about maybe 2 economic development reports ago, you had mentioned to the board that you thought maybe by July 1st that you could present to us kind of a side-by-side comparison of what the library plans to do at the Majestic versus what another group might be hoping to do at the Majestic. Can you kind of share with us where you are on that? And I know with the library kind of undergoing some new details, did that have an impact in your ability to show us anything the first, or are y'all working towards that? Or
Director Webb, and I'll welcome Vince to join me. I think I can tackle that. In a town that has horse races, in a horse race 2 months ago, I would have probably ventured that they would both be at a certain point 60, 90 days later. The library's only moved forward, as we've seen by the video renderings. The other company, not so much. So while we'd hope to have a side-by-side comparison, we're not there right now.
okay. And do we have any update on the mall?
Well, we're working on them all.
Okay.
I'm not trying to evade your question. I'm it's a little bit what I can say and what I can't say, but we're working on that in a couple different capacities.
And then just going back to what you shared with us prior to that question on the horse race analogy between the library moving forward, the other one not. It was my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but were there not two that were kind of potential proposals along with the library, or was it just that one?
No, the library was one of the two.
Okay.
And what you can go ahead and take, now, Director Webb, whether the library is a standalone project or part of another, remains to be seen, and
Right.
could be. And I think if Adam Webb were here, he'd say he doesn't, either way works for him. But no, we were looking at both separately, but also with the library as a possible add-on to the other project.
Okay. I was just going to ask you, so when you say standalone or add-along, you're meaning that the library could be there in conjunction with another proposal and they work together?
Correct.
From what we see?
Correct. And we have spoke to Director Webb about that, and he's comfortable either way. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it's my understanding he's comfortable either way.
You mean Adam?
Adam?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I can add a little color to that that I think is fair. We've been working for a number of months with one developer prospect, and we don't know, as we vet that out, what we think about that yet. In terms of a recommendation, they'll certainly be on our rate and ranking system. The library is another candidate for the property as well. But I think the committee is particularly excited because there are actually, we feel like, two other new, one is not as much new, but important considerations for it. So that would bring us to three that we really like in terms of candidates for the site, developer candidates for the site. And we have a couple things, the committee met just a week ago. We have a couple things that we want to vet out in terms of those candidates, some questions for them, and we're actually considering the possibility of bringing the three of them together, the library included, to see how we all might work together to resolve not only this site, but other property opportunities that exist down there. So we're very, very excited about that possibility developing. The July 1st deadline, if you will, that we had mentioned was really a self-imposed one. But I think we're going to probably take a little time now that things are really heating up. At least that's our sense, to kind of, vet through some of, the possibilities of what we might do.
Thank you.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. For clarification, I wanted to make sure I understood that all of these potential candidates for developers of the former Majestic site property are being looked at and considered in their vetting process of potentially all working together for that space and any additional space adjoining properties that could all fit there together. Is that correct?
Director Garcia, that is exactly what I'm suggesting here. I mean, that's the dream, can we all work together? This is
We want to all work together.
that's
yeah,
right.
definitely.
And we also, as Scott Dews, has said many times, I think, before this body, is we've got one chance to do this right, and it's very important. And another mantra that we have is we want whatever we do there to be good for all.
For all.
That's right.
And I had shared earlier in the year from a couple of board members from another organization that's not in Hot Springs that was interested in relocating to Hot Springs. That was also, and I'm hoping that they're part of that consideration.
We've been in communication with that group as well, and just a package of a little bit of everything makes a whole lot of something. But you know, the library, and we've talked to Adam before, he really doesn't even need all of the 5.2 acres.
Right.
So I'll just remind you all again, there's 5.7 behind it. So, and let's not even get into talk about St. Joe, but I mean, there's 3 properties right there together. So.
And the Belden Road.
And the
Yeah,
Belder
Belder
Road's
Road's,
next door.
yeah.
So, I mean, we're trying to consider it. You heard me mention Rick Williams bringing into the
Mm-hmm. You're right.
conversation. He's not going to want something to be right next door and him not, you know, have at least some interest in what's going on there. So we're really looking at the total package now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Gary? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your report.
Mayor, we'll get into your consent agenda, and the first item is consider resolution R25-134, a resolution acknowledging receipt to the City of Hot Springs financial statements for May 2025, and our Finance Director, Karen Scott, will discuss this item. Karen?
Thank you and good afternoon. The monthly financial statements are issued to keep city management and constituents apprised of the financial condition of the City of Hot Springs. The May 2025 financial statements will be provided as an attachment to your board action request, and staff recommends acknowledging receipt of the May 2025 financial statements.
Any questions of Karen? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have consider resolution R25-135, a resolution authorizing an amendment to the City of Hot Springs Police Department Animal Services Division budget. And again, Ms. Scott.
The Animal Services Division of the Hot Springs Police Department has previously been given a substantial amount of donations in order to improve their facilities. It had been the past practice to deposit these funds into a liability account to be used at a later date. During the 2024 audit, the auditors determined that those donations should be accounted for as revenue in the fiscal year received. An entry was made to move those funds in the amount of $90,845.79, accounted for as from the liability account to revenue in 2024. Therefore, the funds are in the total fund balance in the police fund. Animal Services has identified uses for these funds and needs to proceed with the work. Attached to your board action request is a COA and a spreadsheet detailing the proposed expenditures, and staff recommends approving a budget amendment for the Animal Services Department in order to accomplish their goals.
Any questions on this item? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned that the auditors had made this recommendation. Is that part of their management letter or report, or was that agreed upon before the conclusion of the audit?
It was agreed upon before the conclusion of the audit.
And so have we received their report on
Yes.
all of that?
Yes,
And-
the AFR was submitted to GFOA at 6:20 last Monday, June 30th. It will be reviewed and brought to you for your formal review at the August 5th board meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Webb? Did you? Okay. Any additional questions of Karen? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is consider resolution R25-136, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a grant application to the Arkansas Economic Development Commission for the Community Assistance Grant Program in the amount of $288,000 for renovations at the Community Resource Center. And Sarah Delozier will discuss this item. Sarah?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Board of Directors. The City of Hot Springs intends to submit an application to the Arkansas Community Assistance Grant Program, ACAG, by the July 31st, 2025 deadline to complete critical capital improvements at the Community Resource Center. The proposed project includes installation of a permanent generator system and Phase 2 interior renovations, specifically the construction of bathroom locker rooms and laundry facilities. These upgrades will significantly enhance the CRC's capacity to serve as a year-round hub for care, dignity, and emergency response. The total project budget is $360,000, including $200,000 for Phase 2 interior remodeling, including the accessible bathroom and locker room upgrades, and the addition of a dedicated commercial-grade laundry room. $160,000 for the purchase and installation of a permanent emergency generator. The city will request $288,000 in ACAG funding with the required 20% local match of $72,000 provided provided through a strong partnership with the Friends of the Hot Springs Community Resource Center, a 501c3 nonprofit. While the city is the legal owner of the CRC and the appropriate applicant, no city funds will be used for this match. This partnership approach builds on proven success. The Friends were recently awarded a $105,000 grant from the Oaklawn Foundation, funds the city was not eligible to pursue directly. Of that award, $61,000 has been designated to meet the cash match requirement for this grant. The remaining will be met through in-kind support coordinated by the Friends. $3,612 in volunteer hours at $18.06 an hour, and $7,388 in donated materials and supplies. This City Friends collaboration demonstrates local strong investment, successful philanthropic fundraising, and broad-based community support. If awarded, ACAG funds will allow the city to complete these vital infrastructure improvements, including those accessible locker rooms, bathrooms, and the durable laundry system. The CRC is already undergoing improvements funded through other sources. In March of 2025, the city received a $51,400 grant in Emergency Solutions Grant for capital improvements, currently supporting the commercial kitchen remodel, and potentially the required smoke detection system to permit emergency overnight shelter. The city is also awaiting a funding decision from Entergy to further support those life safety improvements. While ACAG is a competitive program, the city's demonstrated investment, community partnerships, and secured matching position of this request is a compelling opportunity. Approval of this application would mark a significant milestone in advancing the CRC's mission to provide accessible, dignified services to Hot Springs' most vulnerable residents. And I'm open to any questions if you have them.
Any questions from the board? Thank you for your report.
Next item is consider Resolution R 25-137, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of grant funds from the Federal Lands Access Program, or the FLAP grant, for the Southwest Trail from Hot Springs National Park headquarters to a designated trail connection point. And again, Sarah.
Wonderful. The City of Hot Springs intends to submit this grant application to the Federal Lands Access Program, FLAP, to support the design and construction of Phase 1 of the Southwest Trail within the City of Hot Springs. The Southwest Trail is a 60-mile multi-use bicycle and pedestrian trail that will connect Little Rock Central High School National Historic Site with Hot Springs National Park, traversing Pulaski, Saline, and Garland counties. The Hot Springs portion of the Southwest Trail includes the southern trailhead at the National Park headquarters and approximately 3.6 miles of trail within city limits, ultimately connecting to the Garland County section, which has already received a competitive tourism grant, EDA, for a portion of their Southwest Trail County segment. Design for the full 60-mile Southwest Trail corridor is already 65% complete, funded in part by a 2017 Federal Lands Access Program grant that supported the environmental studies and engineering. The project's design consultant, Garver Engineers, has completed all survey work, and both the environmental impact statement and the 404 permits have been approved. Several segments in Pulaski and Saline counties are currently under construction, including the adaptive reuse of the state's oldest bridge, an essential connectivity feature for the Saline County portion of the trail. The city section proposed for this FLAP application stretches from the Hot Springs National Park headquarters building to the proposed Gulfa Creek trailhead site, noted in the map of your packet. This section was selected due to its readiness, connectivity, and moderate construction cost. The more costly southernmost section of the city's portion will be pursued under future grant opportunities. The estimated preliminary total for this phase of the project is $1,688,808. The FLAP grant request will be $1,374,390, with the voluntary local match of 18.6%, or $314 and $118. The match can include local, state, or non-Title 2349 federal resources. Leverage funding is strongly encouraged under the FLAP scoring criteria. And I'm open to answer questions that you may
Any
have.
questions on this item? Thank you.
Yep.
Next item is consider Resolution R 25-138, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a grant from the Federal Land Access Program, FLAP, for wayfinding signage directing visitors to Hot Springs National Park. And again, Sarah.
This is my last one for tonight. Thank you. The City of Hot Springs intends to submit a grant application to the Federal Lands Access Program, FLAP, to support the design and construction of I am reading the wrong one there. I apologize. Sorry about that. Got myself mixed up. The City of Hot Springs intends to submit a grant application to the Federal Lands Access Program for Phase 3 of the citywide wayfinding signage program. This phase will support the fabrication and installation of gateway monument signs and vehicular scale directional signage, guiding travelers to Hot Springs National Park, the historic downtown, and regional federal lands and recreation areas. This effort builds on the success of the city's ongoing multi-phase wayfinding initiative since 2019. Phase 3 focuses on vehicular navigation and gateway visibility, installing large-scale signage along state highways and major entry corridors to strengthen access to the city's most visited federal and recreational assets. Although the exact locations are an ongoing discussion, city leadership and city staff are identifying the best locations either on 270 West coming east, 7 South, and 70 East for the 3 gateway signs to be requested in this funding round. The signage effort was originally prioritized in the 2015 Downtown Economic Development and Redevelopment Action Plan, funded by the U.S. Economic Development Administration and adopted locally in 2016. To support this next phase, the city has re-engaged Merge Design Consultants, the original system designer, to update fabrication specifications, refine the cost estimates, and incorporate the trademarked Visit Hot Springs, America's First Resort tagline into the signage elements, ensuring branding consistency within the city's tourism strategy. Hot Springs now receives over 9 million visitors annually, making it an Arkansas top destination. A coherent, attractive wayfinding system for vehicular travelers to reduce confusion, ease congestion, promote safety, and increase time spent in local districts and public lands. The total estimated project cost is $412,500. The FLAP grant request will be for $350,055, with a local voluntary contribution of $62,445. While the local match is not required for the FLAP, contributing funds increases the competitiveness of the application. The city has budgeted for continued work on the wayfinding project in the 2025 budget, and a portion of that, $14,280, has already been allocated for the design updates with Merge. This amount will be reflected in the grant application as part of our city's contribution. Additional local contributions may include in-kind services, signage preparation, or support from project partners such as Visit Hot Springs. The application is due July 31st.
Any questions on this item? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. In this signage, in our packet, will it be included if this signage will include QR codes or some other information where even though the driver might not be coming in, the navigator can get lock in on that to further provide the driver information?
What will be included in your packet are the pieces of the wayfinding signage from Merge Consultants with the specifications that ARDA has that was already approved. It's just being amended with those project costs and that additional tagline, but I certainly can look into that question for you.
Thank you.
Yes,
We'll have
ma'am.
renderings in your packet as well, so you'll see the gateway signs.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Thank
Hearing
you.
none, thank you.
Yep.
Next item is consider resolution R25-139, a resolution approving the purchase of 3 census base stations from Core and Main pursuant to ACA 1458-104. Luke Lingo with our utility billing services, especially in our meter maintenance, is here to discuss the item. Luke?
The city's municipal water system relies on an automated metering collection system powered by Census. However, the outdated software and components are no longer supported and require replacement to prevent system failures. To ensure seamless compatibility between the water meter portal and the analytical reporting data, staff recommends upgrading 3 of the 9 collectors across the city's water service area with new equipment from Core and Main of North Little Rock, the sole vendor for our area, for $228,307.50, as set out in the proposal from Core and Main. This upgrade will guarantee the continued efficiency and accuracy of our metering system.
This was part of your 2025 budget. Luke mentioned we've got 9 of these stations. 6 have already been replaced. These are the final 3.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. And what is the expected lifespan of the upgrade?
10 to 20 years, depending on
Okay.
upgrades and how fast the processors can keep up with the upgrades. But I actually asked that before I came over here. 20 years is the goal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that would be amazing.
Right now, we're at 15 for these three.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Next, we have considered Resolution R-25-140, a resolution awarding a contract to Western Millwright Commercial Construction Company, Inc. for the 2025 sidewalk improvement project in the amount of $302,096.10. And our Assistant City Engineer, Michael Hill, will present. Mike?
Good afternoon. The 2025 sidewalk project targeted 4 areas to improve walkability and safety. These are West Building, Prospect Avenue, Emery Street, and Hobson Avenue. The job will repair existing sidewalks, remove trip hazards, add ADA compliant ramps, fill in gaps in the sidewalk network, and create a dedicated parking area to eliminate cars parking on the sidewalks. The city advertised and received 4 bids. The bids were tabulated, and it was confirmed that the Western Millwright submitted the lowest bid for $302,096.10. A notice of intent to award the contract was published, and no protests have been received. Staff recommends awarding the contract to Western Millwright. Are there any questions?
Any questions of Mike? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. On all of these streets, I have no issue with. I mean, Emory is with a lot of these are in the school district or in helping those that need help with that walkability. However, I continue to observe other areas where pedestrians are having to walk on our city streets just to get to bus stops where there are no sidewalks. And I hope that as we continue increasing our sidewalks, that we will look at those areas as well where there are mothers with young children, and seniors that are having to walk on our city streets without sidewalks to just get to a bus stop.
Yes, we are looking at different areas right now. We have a list that we're working off. We get complaints or recommendations that come in, we keep those on the list, and we also take in, staff recommendations and we evaluate them, trying to put a project together so it's not here all over the place. We're trying to make sure the contractor get in, work in a certain area. But we are working on that list. We've already started working on the 2026 job, and we had such a good bid on this one that leaves us still like $183,000 we're left in 25 money. So we're going to go and put together probably some recommendations for a change order, since we get such good prices with this one, and try to reach those areas close to their existing work areas. So yeah, we're going to get to them as fast as we can.
Well, all of these areas may not be as close to all of these streets. They're, the ones in South Hot Springs are not as close. The closest would be Emory, but I've seen increased traffic due to new construction and a lot more housing in the area, but yet it's still no sidewalks for the pedestrians, and I see it as a safety issue as well.
We agree. We have been doing an emphasis around schools, like, as you can see, and also closing the gaps where we have sidewalks and they've been deteriorated or something, so we're trying to close the gaps. We haven't targeted too many new sidewalks. We're trying to really fix what we do have before we start adding to that. But if you have some specific recommendations, please send them to us, because we're like I said, we have not finished our 26. We still need to bring that to some staff people to look at to see what needs to be in our 26 job. And with this leftover money, we are still reaching out to close some gaps this year with some additional work.
I know with our paving program, we have a model in a process that it goes through red, green.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something of that nature for sidewalks as well?
Years ago, they did do an evaluation, but basically that was showing us where the gaps were and where we had our sidewalks. So that's one of the reasons why we're kind of focusing on trying to fill those gaps in, so that rather than spend a lot of money on a brand-new sidewalk, we can help a lot more people if we just fix the sidewalks that are there and, you know, close those gaps and make sure a wheelchair can use those areas first before we start going out to new sidewalks.
Yeah, I've observed people in wheelchairs and motorized scooters and wheelchairs trying to navigate this as
Yeah,
well.
we do have a list
Yeah.
to work on.
Thank you.
Any
Just
additional
wanna-
questions?
Just want to add, if you've got a specific area, email it to me, and we'll try to get that over on the list.
Yeah.
West Building's on here. That's been some time that we've worked with Director Beard on those. One of the things to keep in mind, most of our sidewalk money is coming from the Our Roads Now Fund. And in that, you know, we can't build new roads, can't build new sidewalks. We can repair sidewalks, we can repair roads. So some of the other paving dollars we may need to shift over to the newer sidewalks and areas that we do. We can fill in gaps, but trying to come in and build a new one with those funds gets a little tricky.
Just a question, when you say filling gaps, if there are some sidewalks and then there aren't any, would that qualify for
We believe it
Filling-
would.
Yes,
Okay.
making connections. you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we have, in this area I'm talking about, we do have some new development that put in sidewalks, but then the older ones don't have.
It would connect.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. On this note, even where we fill in gaps or where we think there might need to be some new sidewalks added due to ensure public safety for residents and visitors that are walking, if we encounter an area where there's question as to whether or not it's easement or if it's owned by the property owner, would you be able to let us know that when those requests come in? Because I know that does sometimes come up, right? I know like 7th Street, we ran into where the easement didn't go out as far as we needed to, so it required city staff to go out and visit with residents to see if we could, you know, work out some kind of deal to make the sidewalks work through that area.
The
Can you-
right of way.
The right of way.
The right of way,
Sorry, yeah, the right of way.
And Gary's very good at doing that, and
Okay.
7th Street is a good example. We had,
The old
the
street.
people were very excited, even when they had to give up some space, change a fence line, because they had been watching those kids walk to school, and it bothered all of them. So really, there was a lot of happy people. They were very willing to work with us to give us the right-of-way we needed to get the sidewalk.
That was a win-win example for our city. City did a great job, and then the people of our city did a great job of kind of meeting in the middle to collaborate. But moving ahead, if any requests are made and that issue does come up, can you let us know too? Or
Sure.
if
You mean
need
if
to.
there's an issue? Because
Yeah, if-
usually
if-
there's not
if-
much of an issue.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, not so much of an issue, but can you tell us, yeah, we've got the right of way to do the sidewalk, or no, we don't, we'll have to
Sure.
visit with
Sure.
residents?
This particular project here, we do have all the right-of-way.
Okay.
So we're all good here.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, we'll keep that in mind.
Any additional questions? Director
Is-
Dobbs
Is
Smith?
West St. Louis on that list?
I'm trying to think if it's on the 26th.
On the way to Walmart in particular, there's like a hill behind, it runs parallel to Albert Pike, and there's like a little hill behind all of those stores, and
I don't-
there's no sidewalks and lots of people, bus stops, there's a lot of people that walk to Walmart and in that vicinity.
Yeah, I don't particularly remember that area, but if you want to send an email to Gary, because we are constantly adding to that list to
I had
evaluate.
a lot of people request that. I
West
saw
St. Louis
just
around Walmart.
yesterday,
Okay.
I saw wheelchairs in the middle of the road trying to get to Walmart.
Okay, we can add that to our list to
It's got
evaluate.
some offset intersections in it, telephone poles and those kind of things, so you'll
That
see it, but
sometimes makes things difficult, those telephone poles.
We'll put it on that list. We do have Prospect on, and that's a big one. I
Yeah.
mean, that one's got some trees that are growing through it. That's gonna be an extensive
Oh, and it's up and down.
project to get those repairs. Some of those
Prospect
are
is
elevated
a
project,
challenge.
Yeah.
sidewalks.
I mean, there's some of them where the sidewalk is 5 feet above the
This,
street level.
this is one of those areas.
Yes, it's one of the, yeah, it's it.
Any
Anything?
additional questions? Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Next item, consider resolution R25-141, a resolution approving a lease agreement between the City of Hot Springs and Jason and Jill Lacamfora, doing business as Arkansas Therapy Group LLC for 507 Airport Road, a property of the Hot Springs Memorial Airport, and Don Roller, Airport Director, will present the item. Don?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The couple that operate the Arkansas Therapy Group has been doing pediatric therapy in the local area. They're currently operating out of offices in a adjoining school district, and they'd like to open up a location in Hot Springs. They approached me and the staff for the airport in regards to 507 Airport Road, which is commonly known as the Haynes Appliance Building. And so we've been talking about that. The building's been sitting vacant for a long period of time, and it hadn't produced any revenue for the airport. And while the condition of the building is downgraded because it hasn't been used and updated, so there would be a substantial amount of remodeling for any sort of a business that would go in there. After consulting a local commercial realtor regarding the asset value and the current condition, it was determined that the lease would be somewhere around $8 to $10 per square foot based on its condition. Under that, we've looked at the $8 square foot, which was kind of emphasized when we were talking to them. With it, the building is 2,400 square feet for the lease, and then 0.37 acres of land to go with it, basically the land around the building and the parking lot in front of it. At that rate, the monthly rent would be $1,859. Since they're wanting to open up a clinic environment, there's going to be quite a bit of upfront expense in order to get the building set up to be able to operate that business. And in doing so, we negotiated with the 3-year lease with 2 3-year renewals for it. During that time frame, the leasehold improvements, we're looking at the first 2 years being a 70-30 split of that $1,859. 70% of it would go toward the renovations, and then the 30% would come into the airport as rent. The third year would be a 40-60 split, with 40% going to the remodeling. Once we get out the initial 3 years, then it would have the 2 renewals, and that would be at the full rate. They also own a construction business, and so they would be doing a lot of the maintenance, a lot of the labor themselves. The splits would remain the same, the 30-70, the 60-40. However, the dollar amounts would be evaluated on our annual CIP like any other property would. In your packet, there's addendum number 1, and that breaks down those 70-30 numbers for you, as well as the 60-40. And so the staff recommends that we allow this lease to go through. It's brings in another business. We're getting some revenue from the building, and then we're getting the building renovated also.
In your package, you'll also have a link to what all of those renovations are.
Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. In the list of all the renovations that are this potential leaseor is expecting to do, does it have a time frame and cost of those renovations?
It does.
And that time frame that's in the packet, it will be done when they move in, or during the first year of their business?
Most of the renovations will happen before they move in, and then the negotiations on the lease rates will cover some of those. I think the total amount was a little over $66,000 in renovations.
In finance, and the city attorney reviewed these for the economic return as well as legal
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess I'm having a little difficulty understanding. So they're gonna, you have a, whatever you might consider fair market value of the lease, 1,800 and change. But then the city of Hot Springs is actually doing the renovations?
No,
No, sir, the tenants will be doing the renovation, using the 70%. 70% of that monthly lease would go to pay for those renovations up front in order to get the building ready for opening. I believe they were shooting for September, having it open and running. So your lease payment, 70% of it would go to pay toward that leasehold improvement. The 30% would then come to the airport as rent. And that would happen for the first 2 years, monthly for the first 2 years. And that's going to assist in those renovations. And then in the third year, it'll be a 60-40 split,
40/60.
with 60 of it coming to the airport.
I'll try
As rent.
I'll try to say it a different way, Mayor. They are getting credit toward rent for the amount of the improvements that they're making to our property, which becomes our property. So after 3 years, it's subject to renegotiation, not an automatic renewal.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, but isn't it also true that when, as if I'm renting or leasing property and I make leasehold improvements, those are costs that are tax deductions on returns that benefit me as in my business?
Sure.
And
On your income tax.
right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's a credit to them, too.
Sure.
So do we also offer this to any other leaseholders?
We have in the past, particularly at the airport where you've had property that has sat vacant. In fact, the city did that with itself when it rented the armory to
Armory.
the general fund. Yes.
Yeah.
But that was internal.
Yes. But it has happened at hangars before and build
What about the
outs.
office or potential office spaces at the airport?
It could. Potential office spaces, it could. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're doing everything fair to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we've
Done leasehold agreements in the past with the hangars when they would come in and make renovations as well. And it may be different terms depending on the situation with the hangar, whereas this one is, this building is in pretty bad shape because it's not been used in a long time. So the 70-30 split is more of getting it up front for them to make those renovations so that they can open the business. The hangars are usually a lot less deteriorated because they're in use all the time. And so when it goes from one to the other, an example of what we've done with the hangars, we've had LED lights. They wanted to put in LED lights so it's better lit and stuff like that. And those are expensive. We don't necessarily have that in the budget for the airport, so we did give them the credit on the rent.
Thank
Then
you.
Just again, to kind of close out from my thought process. So basically, the first 2 years, they're going to send you a check for 30% of $1,800.
Yes, sir.
So $540.
Yes, sir.
There's no other monies going any which direction.
Right.
And proof of the renovations.
Director, trustee?
Mayor, I'm struggling a little bit with that too. We're not paying for the renovations, but over the 2 years, they're going to decrease their rent by $31,000. So we are paying $31,000 of those renovations.
Of
Isn't that-
66,000.
Of 66, right. Isn't that correct?
Well, for the first
Yeah.
two,
But they can deduct the whole amount.
Yeah, they can deduct the whole amount on their return. Brian, you made a comment, I think, about the renewal of this lease. If this property right now is $8 a square foot, at the end of 3 years, it will have been improved and it's operating. Will it be $10 a square foot rent or $12 a square foot rent, or
More.
there will be even more than that? I don't know, but it's subject to negotiations
It
at
is.
that time.
It
It's
is.
not just an automatic renewal.
It's not an automatic renewal.
It is
Okay.
subject to CPI as well.
Okay.
That's it.
So
And that's
each
in
of
the
those
contract.
3
Yes.
years, they'll also be doing the CPI on the property.
Well, but I think it'll be more than the CPI adjustment. With these kind of renovations, it will be worth more and the
That-
market rent will be higher
Correct.
for
Right.
the second 3-year period and the third 3-year period.
Right.
Okay. As long as we have the ability to negotiate that, I think we'll be all right. Thank you.
And you're signing off on the design of the interior? I know it's a fairly small building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They have presented a drawing of what they want to do. And it's basically like, for example, the restrooms, they're going to redo the restrooms because they have to make them ADA accessible. And then some partitions to make different offices and therapy areas and that type of stuff. There's a garage that's on the side of the building, and that will be their gymnasium, so they'll be enclosing some of that stuff to make it less of a garage look.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. So on these renovations, could there be any chance that they be done before 24 months? Or have you looked at what they're trying to do as far as renovations are concerned, and have y'all come to the conclusion that to do what they need to do, it's going to take 24 months?
September.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Oh,
going to take,
September.
it won't take that long. They're doing it up front, and then we're giving them the
Okay.
credit. So they're looking to open the space by September or October.
So however much it costs to do everything they need to do, they're going to have it all done by September. But as far as the cost that endures to make those renovations, in order to pay off the cost, it's going to take 24 months. That's what you're saying?
It's a 3-year lease. Each year gives them a credit amount
Yeah, it was 70% for the first 2
years.
and 40 for the
Right.
third.
Right.
for the
Right.
amount of their.
And so it could very well be that after the third year, all that they need to pay for the renovations is complete. And that's why you're saying that to get a renewal, we would come back to the table?
At the end of 3 years, there is no lease. It says the tenants shall have the option to renegotiate this lease for an additional 2 3-year periods.
Yeah, I'm not seeing what you're
Right,
seeing, so
right.
that's why I'm asking.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what, yeah.
Okay.
The
It's
tenant-
renegotiated.
the
There is no
tenant-
automatic renewal.
That's typical with all the leases that we do. It'll be a set number of years up front, in this case 3, and then we can renegotiate at that point.
The tenant is putting up all the money up front, or by whichever way he wants to finance it. And we're just providing a reduction in rent.
Right.
Director Garcia?
There's so many questions, and just in case, after we get our packet, there's still more questions. Is there any opposition moving this to new business?
Any issues with that? Everybody okay? We can do that. We only got 2 items under new business. So
Thank you.
First item under new business.
Is that,
Okay,
okay?
sure.
Yeah, no, actually been there a while.
So item 8 will be the first item under new business. Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a resolution approving a fiscal year 2025 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Annual Action Plan, and authorizing submission of a grant application to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for projects listed in the Annual Action Plan. And our Planning and Development Director, Kathy Summon, will discuss this item. Kathy?
Thank you. The City of Hot Springs was designated a Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Community by HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, in July 2003. And the city is required to submit an annual action plan to HUD describing projects to be undertaken and how funds will be expended. At a duly advertised meeting on March 6th, 2025, the Hot Springs Community Development Advisory Committee, CDAC, considered applicant requests totaling $939,055.90 submitted in anticipation of a fiscal year 2025 CDBG grant award, and having a quorum at that time voted 4-0 to recommend a prioritized list of eligible applications. On April 1st, the Board of Directors passed Resolution 10630, approving the Hot Springs Community Development Advisory Committee's prioritized list of projects and directing the committee to present a fiscal year 2025 annual action plan reflecting projects in the ranked order within 60 days of HUD's CDBG allocation announcement. Without knowing what the actual fiscal year 2025 grant allocation would be, CDAC used an estimate, which was $375,000, based upon the past year grant amounts as a guideline to prioritize the requests and then to recommend funding levels for each application. And at that time, they established a contingent award for priority number 11, saying at that time that if the actual allocation was more than estimated, that award could be increased and not to exceed $54,064. Well, we got good news from HUD. And we now know that the fiscal 2025 allocation will be $419,586, which will allow for full funding of Project 11 and leaving a remainder of $92, which has been incorporated into the planning and administration line item. That Resolution 10630 recognized CDBG mandates that cap certain types of expenditures, including public services and administration, and it did recommend funding at reduced levels for certain proposals. At this time, now that we know the amount and we have your commitment on the prioritization and funding, we will have a meeting on Thursday, July 10th, with the Community Development Advisory Committee to take a look at the annual action plan, which has been put together. As you know, this is a very complicated, fairly long document that meets all of HUD's requirements, and that will be made available for public comment for a period of 30 days that will end on August 10th, following the CDAC's action this coming Thursday. As the application requests exceed what is available, as they always do, by more than $500,000, CDAC will be looking at a recommendation to you to fund projects 1 through 11, which you have already seen in full, at their recommended funding levels, and adding that $92 to planning and administration. And that will bring us up to the allocation amount of $419,586. And that concludes that.
Very good. Any questions of Ms. Selman?
When's your deadline for filing?
August 16th. So we will just barely squeak by and hope to get this to HUD on August 11th. We have done our homework. We have your resolution already adopted, so that made it possible to do much of the work on the annual action plan in advance of this. So we fully expect to meet that deadline.
So if some reason CDAC doesn't go along with what's being proposed? This will be pulled and resubmitted from the board, I mean,
I guess we'll cross that bridge if we come to it.
hope that doesn't happen.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is consider resolution R25-143, a resolution awarding a bid to Belt Construction, Inc. for the construction of phases 2, 3, and 4, also known as Schedule 2 of the Lower Gulf of Gravity Sewer Capacity Improvement Project. This is in the amount of $13,183,721, and our Assistant Project Manager, Joey Stadler, will discuss the item.
Thank you very much. Staff recommends the award of the bid received on June 16, 2025 to Belt Construction of Texarkana, Arkansas for the Lower Gulf of Gravity Interceptor Phases 2, 3, and 4, which are, as Bill said, referred to as Schedule 2 in your board packets. The award shall be in the total lump sum price in the amount of $13,183,721. As designed by the RJN Group, these 3 phases of Gulf Interceptor start at the north end of Lower Gulf of Phase 1, which is behind Lakeside School, and continue to follow Gulf Creek north to Burnell Street. The project consists of approximately 9,300 feet of 36-inch pipe, 4,600 feet of 30-inch fiberglass reinforced pipe. This is part of ADEQ's CAO LIS 22-0077. Bell Construction was selected based on the attached certified bid tab and the RJN Group letter of recommendation dated June 18th, 2025. Belt Inc. was the lowest responsive bidder of the 2 bids received. Notice of intent was awarded or was posted. There were no protests received. This project will be funded by the board-approved 2025 wastewater bonds.
Okay, any questions on this item?
What was your engineer's estimates on this?
So originally, the engineer's estimate was $15,768,704, but there was an increase as of last month to $17,068,068.
This came in at 13?
Came at $13,183, so about $2.5 million lower than the original.
Excellent.
Very good.
And
Questions?
Joey, you
Sure.
actually saved us about $1 million in working with RDOT to be able to open cut instead of bore, so
Yes, sir.
about $1 million of that can be directly attributed to Joey's work with RDOT.
Thank
Director
you.
Trustee?
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Joey, what's the timeline on all of this to be?
The total contract
wrapped
days
up?
are 600 days for these 3 phases.
How much?
600 days.
600 days. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Next item is your only ordinance of the evening. It's considered ordinance O-2531, an ordinance amending the zoning map from RN5 Residential Neighborhood to CG General Commercial Zone District for approximately .82 acres, generally located at 413 Hammond Drive, amending the future land use map to Community Commercial Center and for other purposes. And again, Ms. Selman.
Thank you. Owner applicant Lindsay Landrum is seeking a zone change from RN5, Residential Neighborhood 5, to CG, General Commercial District. This property is adjacent to other CG zone property to the south, southwest, and southeast. At this time, the property has a church building and parking constructed in approximately 1960, and the structure is approximately 4,200 square feet and was most recently used as the Gardner Methodist Church. Surrounding and nearby land uses include a condominium complex, retail center, adult and alternative learning campus, office buildings, undeveloped land, and the airport. The applicant provided a detailed point-by-point explanation asserting that the application meets the required findings for compatibility with surrounding development and zoning, economic, land use, or other considerations, and fulfills a demonstrated public need for land so zoned. In part, the applicant states that the current residential zoning is no longer suitable for this property. The building previously was occupied by a church, and its scale, parking requirements, and overall design are not consistent with residential use. They propose a wedding chapel to operate as an event venue for weddings and elopements, and detail that the use of the space will be carefully planned to ensure minimal disruption to the neighborhood. Parking will be provided on site, and there will probably be no change to that. The chapel will maintain the integrity of the original church building, preserving historical and architectural features while making necessary updates. The building's design and operations will be sensitive to the surrounding area, ensuring that the space maintains an attractive and functional addition to the community. Hot Springs Code describes the general commercial district as one that is intended to accommodate areas of commercial development near corridors and at key nodes that serve residents, the community at large, and visitors to the city. And this property would be consistent with that concept and description of the CG zone district. Future land use plan map amendment to Community Commercial Center is recommended, which would support the requested general commercial district zoning. Future land use plan map designation of Community Commercial Center would be consistent with other adjacent similarly zoned properties to the south, southeast, and southwest. The finding to Planning Commission was that the applicant successfully demonstrated that the standards for favorable consideration have been met, and that Planning Commission was able to establish a basis for recommending to the board that the proposed change does demonstrate compatibility with surrounding development and zoning and is consistent with the objectives of the zoning code. The recommendation to Planning Commission was that the board was to recommend that the board adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning map designating the subject property CG, general commercial, and Planning Commission at their duly advertised May 8th, 2025 meeting accepted the findings and recommendation of that staff report, and by their 7-0 vote recommended that the Board of Directors approve an ordinance amending the zoning map for the City of Hot Springs for 413 Hammond from RN5 to CG. And I bet you think that's the end, but it isn't. Because on May 13th, following Planning Commission's action on May 8th, the Planning and Development Department received an email regarding the notice of the Planning Commission's May 8th meeting. Upon investigation, it was discovered that several notices intended for condominium owners inadvertently were mailed to incorrect addresses. In fairness, and after consultation with the applicant, a new Planning Commission meeting date, June 12th, was scheduled. New notices were sent to all property owners within 200 feet of the subject property. A new sign was posted, and a new notice was published in the Sentinel Record newspaper. At their duly advertised June 12th, 2025 meeting, Planning Commission vacated its earlier May 8th, 2025 recommendation by a 7-0 vote. Planning Commission then heard the rezone request de novo, calling for testimony, considering the record, and accepting the findings and recommendation of the staff report, and by their 7-0 vote recommended that the Board of Directors approve an ordinance amending the zoning map for the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas for 413 Hammond Drive from RN5 to CG, and no public comment occurred at that meeting, although written comments were received, and those will be included in full in the packet.
Any questions of Ms. Selman? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. In general, were those written comments supportive or against the change?
The written comments, I believe, only came from one person.
Okay, that's fine, we'll see.
I'll
it.
let you read them.
Yeah, we'll see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions of Ms. Selman? Very good.
Thank you.
That completes the action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday, July 15th. We did get a request from the legal counsel of Levi Hospital to come and make a presentation as to their thought process going forward that resulted in the establishment of a community health foundation. And so I'd like to have that, we'll put that under Board of Directors items for discussion. It's a little different than what we've had in the past, but it is the area that we have had discussion. And so, so Ms. Linda Johnson will be here next Tuesday. And we have a relatively short meeting, but at the same time, her discussion could be somewhat, say maybe 20 minutes without questions or so. So if there's some questions, it could extend. So we'll invite her and look forward to her presentation. So there being no further items to come before the agenda meeting, we'll adjourn. We do have a work session